The goofy look of clowns leaves a lasting impression on anyone who encounters them. For most, it isn't particularly easy to forget the hilarious smear of lipstick, the big round nose, and the white painted face which complements the playful look. These amusing characters have been a source of laughter for people across all age groups and time periods. However, this isn't the case anymore. Nowadays, most people are terrified of clowns. This leads us to wonder, how did these seemingly harmless jokers eventually become the cruel, malicious tricksters we know today? To answer this question, let's rewind through history to examine their origins, their roles in society, and their ultimate fate so that we can eventually discover why clowns became so sinister. Early clowns date as far back as the 5th Egyptian dynasty, where they served diverse roles in the palace and society at large. Though they showed skill in various areas of society regarding socio-religion and psychology, these days their skills seem to be watered down to baseless amusement and terror in some cases. As the descendants of jesters, clowns have a peculiar ancestry in early royal courts. This dates to as far back as the medieval period, when they carried out their entertainment work through various means like music, storytelling, juggling, acrobats, and more. The difference between a clown and a jester was that the former amused people by making a fool of themselves, while jesters primarily entertained by making a fool of others. Jesters also had more definite and sensitive roles than just amusing people, whereas clowns barely featured as anything other than a tool used for comedy. By the time the 18th century had begun, many jesters were already out of business in several locations, save a few. As time progressed, clowns began to make notable appearances in events like the theater and the circus. Traveling entertainers sought to mimic the jesters of the early royal courts for their audiences, so they usually had clowns accompany them for special performances. During this time, clowns started appearing in theaters as comical characters. Soon enough, the father of modern-day clowning came onto the scene, and his name was Joseph Grimaldi. Joseph was a British entertainer who excelled as a stage performer and dancer. He's famous for playing the clown in the Harlequinade and other pantomimes. Joseph was known for his distinctive catchphrases, along with his white makeup and colorfully bizarre costumes he usually wore to amuse the crowd. He redefined the clown character by restyling the makeup to feature a white painted face, red cheeks, and a blue mohawk. Thus, he earned the title as the father of modern-day clowning. Without his innovation, modern-day clowning wouldn't be what it is. But despite his success, he wasn't exactly a happy man outside the theater. He had drinking problems and struggled with depression. He was two different people. His theatrical success was in stark contrast with his life outside the stage, and he was highly aware of his situation. As he would always say, "I'm grim all day, but I make you laugh at night." Joseph Grimaldi wasn't the only clown who had a rough life outside the theater, as several clowns experienced one form of ill luck or another. Even his son, Joseph Samuel Grimaldi, who became a famous clown like his father, is known to have died from an alcohol overdose. The early story of clowns paints a sad picture into the life of a traveling entertainer. This sympathy for clowns would be short-lived, however, because further into the video, we will discuss how many events throughout history had consistently shown the public that clowns were not the best people to be around, as either friends or family. As more clowns emerged onto the public scene, rumors and stories of crime and terror began to circulate about them, harming their reputation within society. Further on, we will demonstrate that while some of the rumors are true, others are born out of the terrible representations of clowns in popular media. So keep watching as we reveal how these characters whom people once loved became the dreadful monsters we know today. Coulrophobia, the fear of clowns, has become a dominant phenomenon amongst people who have come to accept the idea that clowns are not as harmless as they appear. Some have heralded the idea that clowns were never good characters and that they have always been ordained with a tendency towards mischief and, in some cases, murderous instincts. When we consider the father of modern-day clowning, we see that his life wasn't as enthusiastic as his stage character, and he passed on that despair to his son, who also took up the bottle like his father. Even Joseph's father, noted to have been an entertainer, had anger issues and was guilty of domestically abusing his wife. People who knew about this then didn't pay much attention to it at the time, but now many have considered it worthy of consideration due to the current perceived degenerate behaviors of clowns, even though the lives of Joseph and his son were more tragic than evil. Another clown was also making waves in France, just as Grimaldi took the stage in London. His name was Jean-Gaspard de Borro. He was the popular French mimer famous not just for his comical behavior and pantomime skill, but also for being the founder of the well-known pantomime stock character Perrault. De Borro was well celebrated both during his lifetime and in death, but he is one of the more common examples people use to prove that clowns are evil. In 1836, a young boy was murdered by de Borro. He hit him with his stick because the boy was mocking him in the streets. He received a murder charge and served jail time, after which he eventually died. In the following years, incidents like this kept happening and people slowly began associating clowns with immoral acts. But at this point, it wasn't at an all-time high. A large part of the public's suspicion with clowns during this time was a case of not knowing their true intentions. The fact that their true selves were hidden behind makeup and a costume repelled many from forming a level of trust with them. Their erratic behaviors and gestures didn't help much either because people could not find it easy to differentiate between their acting persona and their normal behaviors. As time went on, the circus began to flourish and gained prominence in America. But the market had switched to children because adults of the 20th century now had other preferable forms of entertainment. Because clowns had essentially become children's entertainment, the need to appear less erratic and more controlled and playful was demanded, which some of them did fairly well. One clown who was very popular with children at the time was Bozo the Clown, played by Robert Louis Bell. He made a very successful career for himself as a clown character in one of the most popular kids' shows of the time. This made him loved by many and even got him an ambassadorship deal with McDonald's. But just when it seemed like his career was on the rise, the rumors of him being immoral spread far across the city. People believed he was promoting smoking to children, and this wasn't tolerated. At this point in time, society expected clowns to be people of good character because they had many children as fans, but clowns like Bozo were beginning to harm the image of the playful clown. Then in the 1970s, there was one man who broke the camel's back, which ultimately led to the evil association with clowns that we all know today. His name was John Wayne Gacy. He solidified the belief that clowns were sinister and untrustworthy. John was known as Pogo the Clown. He was a well-known clown who performed at children's hospitals as well as charity events. He did this for a while without anyone suspecting a thing. He seemed harmless. However, little did they know, John was a serial killer who had killed and assaulted up to 33 young boys. This was a devastating experience for many Americans when they discovered that this man, hiding behind the guise of a clown, was carrying out heinous acts. John was an unstable individual, and his actions further reinforced the fears that society had for the average clown. In closing, due to the culmination of various events throughout history, coulrophobia has become a permanent mainstay within our society as a whole. A large part of the population now associates clowns with terrible acts, often subconsciously. Even children don't like clowns anymore. Sure, there are good clowns out there, but a few bad apples tarnished their reputation, ultimately leading to a general distrust and fear of clowns that still exists today. So what do you think? Are clowns inherently evil? Or are they just misunderstood? Let us know in the comments down below. And remember, if you liked the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and tap the bell icon in order to stay up to date with all our future videos.